there's a lot of problems with conventional farming and what goes into our food, that food process there, right? And I would say it's kind of almost on par with eating like ultra-processed foods. If you're not really kind of inspecting the source of like where your food is grown, how it's grown, in what practice is it grown. And so that has led me down to this path where...
Health.
Yeah, that's right.
It's funny how just on Monday we had a conversation with Jeff Catch of the Rodale Institute, and it was also very much focused around health, or at least his journey towards agriculture, and it was really a health journey.
I was listening to, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. He's a musician in Byron, and he said something that really struck me, and I keep thinking about going back to what he said. And he said the pure altruistic motivations for anyone to do anything is really selfish, but it's a good thing because ultimately, like, we're in the business of survival, right? We're in the business to take care of ourselves and our health and our family. And if it means that more people take back their power of growing their own food in a really healthy, sustainable way, and that's the selfish, altruistic part, then I think all the better.
Yeah, and you said, talking about people reading the labels of food, it just made me think like the real idea should be that you should not have food with labels.
Yeah.
I mean, not, obviously there's some food that is okay, but just in a general, it's like a good
I think that's the start, right?
Yeah.
That's the start to actually like try to cook whole foods and eat whole foods. And I think this is what really good chefs do anyway.
Yeah.
We make everything from scratch. And that's the idea of homesteading, isn't it?
Yeah. We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
I think I've heard from so many people now that I'm pretty confident that that's the reality. Like, a lot of people think they're gluten intolerant, but they're actually intolerant to glyphosate.
Yes.
Which is in the chemicals. Wheat. And when you go to Europe where they don't use GMO seeds, it's like my wife goes there, she just eats the croissant and there's not really a problem. So for me, like, I really believe that there's the connection is more to that.
It's microbial, right? Like it's what like the synthetic chemicals that are destroying the microbes in the soil as well. And this is goes back to the whole probiotic thing that kind of I discovered, is that it's a gut connection. Like you can feel it, right? Like you can sense it when you're eating something, that even if it is a whole food, but it's coming from a source that is questionably grown, like you feel it. It doesn't feel good.
It reminds me, Jeff Catch said, you can't argue with your soul. And his point there was like when you eat something and you feel everything that goes beyond just like your pure biological.
Is your soul your microbes? I think
that is a good question. Like there's a lot to think about that.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to, so from childhood, you kind of left the restaurant world for a while, right?
And I traveled and I worked, but I came back because I was living in Tokyo. The GFC happened. I had
the GFC is
the global financial crisis.
Global financial crisis.
Yeah, around 2008. And then in 2010, like I had a 1-year-old. I was pregnant. My husband, who had lived in Japan for 16 years, he's from New Zealand. We got an offer from my mother who said, "Come back, help me, run the restaurants." It's something that I knew as well. I'd grown up in the business, and at this point, she had 3 businesses. And then we came back, and then like more opened quite in fast succession. So when I gave birth to my second child, I was like back in the restaurant because we just opened a new restaurant, our 5th restaurant at that point. And then, more and more businesses opened up in the 10-year succession, which kind of led to the farm really, because the food my mother cooked at the restaurant is Thai, and it's still a Thai restaurant, let's be clear. However, the produce was harder to source because, not a lot of people were growing kind of like very niche kind of Southeast Asian fruit and vegetables. And the ones that were, like the farms that I did visit, and not to diss on them because everyone just does the best they can with the knowledge they have, right? I remember looking around when we were at this kind of mango farm owned by an ex-American GI and his Thai wife up in Darwin. And my mom was talking to this woman about buying her farm. But then I pulled her aside and I said, Mom, just look around you. Like at that point I didn't really know anything. But what I did know was there was like zero grass on the ground. There were no insects anywhere. And this is like tropical Darwin where it should be bursting with life, right? It's so warm and there's so much rain and there's so much like daylight hours and sunshine through the year. And there was like zero insect activity.
Yeah, covered with herbicide and pesticides.
Yes. And so, and you know, this guy, again, like, you know, he'd done the best he can. She had done the best they knew what they would, you know, coming out of that whole green revolution of like post-Vietnam War, they were just, everything looked great. The mangoes looked wonderful. They were completely unblemished.
This episode is brought to you by Advancing Eco Agriculture. I've been super excited about this company ever since I met their founder, John Kempf, and he blew my mind with his knowledge of science and how he applies it to market gardening. Their products, such as Regenerative Soil Primer, BioCoat Gold, and MicroPack, will boost your soil microbes, improve germination and growth, and give your plants the nutrients they need to thrive. Head on over to advancingecoag.com/marketgarden and see how they can help you advance your eco farm to the next level.
But yeah, so my mom, like actually like credit to her and credit to kind of me as well. Like we were like, this is great. We could buy a complete farm now or find something where we could start from the ground up. And so we did. Yep.
Which year was that?
That was 2000. We started looking around 2012. We bought our farm 2014. So we're 10 years into our journey.
Ago. Does that feel kind of like, wow, 10 years?
No, it just, I mean, it goes so fast, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you start to notice the cycles.
Just as a kind of a weird question, was it, so the restaurant ownership bought a farm? Is that how it worked?
No,
or was it,
so
it
was in a partnership between my mother and I and my husband.
Okay, so the restaurant like wasn't involved? Like, I mean, like, is it like you have 5 restaurants and you open a farm which is connected, it mutualizes?
It is now.
Okay, it is now.
But initially it's not vertically integrated in that way. We treat it as a separate business just to make all the accounting and everything kind of very clear.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's very hard, right? Which I guess then leads me to say, I know now growing organic vegetables and supplying organic vegetables to a restaurant is not commercially viable.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's tough because, and I don't know what your market here is like, but conventional Asian vegetables in Australia is so cheap. And there's a reason why it's so cheap, because it's grown really cheaply. And again, not to diss any farmers who do beautiful jobs with their farms and which produce and yield. However, it's surviving on chemicals. I've seen this for myself. Multiple farms over and over and over again. You know, they rely on outputs to keep going. Yeah. And so what we've done through our learning process is actually create a closed loop system where we self-seed everything. We save seed, collect seed. We don't bring in any fertilizer. We don't put on any like herbicides or pesticides. And so after, was it COVID, when there was a shortage in the market for fertilizers in the world?
Yeah, there was.
And
phosphorus.
That's right. And there was just a huge kind of shortage around like, you know, all the farming regions of Australia, and all the farmers were going, oh my God, you know, our crops are failing. Like, we looked around and was like, oh, thank God we don't have that problem, right? And so when you
Yeah.
farm in a way that is, you know, it's like no-till, you're building soil, you don't run into problems like that.